Hello there, Hidden Hermit. Now, everybody stay calm. We're going to be talking about the Eight of Swords today. Now, the Eight of Swords, what an image, eh? What an image. And it's one of those cards that generally has a very generalized meaning across most decks and most understandings, most schools of thought, which is nice. It makes it easy, but it's a very deep and meaningful and a tough card to deal with. Although there is hope there. There's a good strong indication that there's a way out of this situation. So the Eight of Swords is an air sign. The suit of swords is an air sign. Here is air, and here is the Ace of Swords. And of course the swords deal with states of mind, mental activity, communication, ideas, philosophy, psychology, all that mental stuff, all that stuff going on in your head. The Eight of Swords is associated with the first decan of Gemini. Is Gemini. Gemini is associated with the Lovers. I'm going to put the Lovers down here. I'm going to move you out of the way just for the moment. Don't worry, you'll be back. It's cool. The Gemini is also ruled by the planet of Mercury. There's Mercury. Mercury is ruled by the Magician. I'm going to put you down there. And finally, the first decan, which is 0 to 10 degrees Gemini, which is roughly the 20th, the 21st of May to the 30th, the 31st of May. That 10 degrees, the first decan of the last section of spring, if you like, because Gemini is a mutable air sign, so it's very changeable. But Jupiter is the planet that rules this decan. And check this card out. Look at that Jupiter. I mean, wouldn't you love to have gassy hair like that? I would. Jupiter is represented by the Wheel of Fortune. So here you have a few cards down here from the Waitsmith, and these are the cards that kind of get to where we are here. So the Lovers, you got that duality, that Gemini duality going on there. You've got Mercury and the Magician's influence is very much the epitome of air, of the swords, and there's also a trickster element in there. Jupiter, the Wheel of Fortune, that ever-changing wheel of life. And Jupiter is astrologically in its detriment when it comes into Gemini, because it's 180 degrees. It's completely opposite its own sign of Sagittarius. So Jupiter, that benefic, that abundance, that strong, all that strength is desperately weakened when it comes to the first decan of Gemini. So things go all a bit awry, which is how we get to the Eight of Swords. Now, if we look at the image of the Eight of Swords, I'm going to move you guys out of the way just for the moment. Oh, I always forget the court card. The court card decan ruler of the first decan of Gemini is the Knight of Swords. So again, I mean, we can put all these four back, put them all in a blender, as it were. You've got your swords, you've got your duality, you've got your trickster, and you've got your diminished Wheel of Fortune. It's not good news, unfortunately. It's not good news at all. So here we have the Eight of Swords. Boom. Do you like my setup? I've got all my crystals going on. It's cracking. So yeah, if we look at the Eight of Swords and the Waitsmith, you have a woman that's bound by some sort of well, it's not even rope really, and she's bound quite loosely by a bit of cloth, and she's also blindfolded. The Eight Swords are almost imprisoning her. In fact, she feels imprisoned. She feels imprisoned, and she can't see a way out because of her blindfold. Now, some of the key words across all these decks for the Eight of Swords include such things as a bad news, crisis, censure, conflict, sickness, entrapment, self-undoing, fear, helplessness, bondage, hence the cloth there, denial, deception. You get a vibe of you are your own worst enemy. You're contributing to the problem. Opposition, hindrance, misfortune, resistance. some of the reversed meanings, and the reverse meaning of the Eight of Swords. There's two schools of thought. Mostly, you're continuing all those nasty adjectives like disquiet, difficulty, accident, treachery, fatality, which is a bit harsh. And yet there is also another school of thought. The reverse shows you that there is a way out, there is hope. And we're going back to that idea of you're our own worst enemy. It's something that you probably need to sort out yourself. So yeah, see, this woman is imprisoned, although she can't see the way out, because there is clearly a gap here. She can't see the way out because she's blindfolded. It could possibly mean that she's blind to certain truths. She's blind to hope in a certain way. So yeah, Eight of Swords. Let's go and have a look at some Eight of Swords across some decks, shall we? And we'll start with, right, often start at the end, the After Tarot. And we may be skipping a bit ahead here. You have the same image, but oh look, a guy has come on and he's helping her out. She's still blindfolded, interestingly, so she may very well be thinking, what the hell is going on here? But one of the other vibes of the Eight of Swords is isolation. She's on her own here, but here, help is at hand. Help has come along, and it's a lovely image. It's a lovely image, and I do like it. It does kind of give an idea of the resolution to the Eight of Swords in a way. Let's move on to the Mystic Dreamer. These are the Waite-Smith informed decks. These images are going to be very, very similar to the Waite-Smith. And here you have, get in a little bit closer. This woman is forlorn. She's like, oh my goodness. She's shut her own eyes, signifying that blindfoldedness. Is that word blindfoldedness? It is now. As with most of the cards in the Mystic Dreamer, there's a moon for no reason. Also, if you look at the swords, they're gilded with gold. In the book it says, use your intuition. What does that mean? And, well, I don't know. Perhaps gold, air, just reinforcing that air vibe. And, you got a sort of a yellow vibe in this card as well. But again, it's very similar to the Waite-Smith. Here we have the Cosmic Tarot. The Cosmic Tarot invites us to look at another element. In this one, the woman is not blindfolded. You're still in this sort of this strange prison that you can get out of if you want to. Also, you've got a rock pool vibe going on, just like in... I don't think there's any significance. There may very well be significance for that, but they're just aping the image, I suppose. But the interesting thing about the Cosmic Tarot is there's two people here, and yet they're still isolated. They've got their backs turned to each other. They're not communicating, as Geminis are good at doing. Here we have the Lovers. They could very well be lovers in this one, but they've got their backs turned. They're not communicating. They're still in isolation. And to get out of that situation, all they need to do is turn around and have a chat, really. It's a lovely wee card. Also, you've got these sort of grey tones in the background. Is that a wall? Yes, I would say that is a wall. Quite possibly, they're hemmed in a certain way. Cornered by these swords and a wall. Rock and a hard place, almost. Ooh. Here is the Dreaming Way Tarot, which is a lovely deck. Beautiful artwork. This woman is, again, blindfolded. She's not bound so much. She's got her hands in her pockets. And she's not so much imprisoned by the swords, but they certainly are there. If she's not careful, she's gonna bang her knee and get a nasty cut. But yes, very, very similar to the Waite-Smith. Moving on to some of the more, I say more, to what I call the beautiful decks. And some of these images are going to be slightly different. Here's Shadowscapes. A lot going on in the Shadowscapes. Clearly the swan is signifying that the woman, she's not blindfolded in this case, but she's definitely imprisoned by the swords. And also you've got this crone figure up the top here, who's controlling these brambles, and this swan's thrashing about, and she's just getting, I say the swan is getting more and more imprisoned by these brambles, which, well, ouchie. There's a definite lack of blood on this card, but if this was a if this was a more gruesome, I mean, it's a gruesome image as it is, but I can imagine she's getting a bit scraped around. The swan is getting a bit scraped around. The book in the Shadowscapes tells us to not waste energy on trivial matters, because there's always a way out. All you need to do is breathe and reassess. And the book also draws our attention to, come on, focus. You're not going to focus. Oh, yeah. There's that hummingbird there. And the book, if you've ever read the Shadowscapes book, or if you ever want to, each card has a little story behind it. And this hummingbird has like come along, and the hummingbird's helping the swan out. I was like, hey, relax, it's okay, I can help you, I can move these brambles. The swan's probably looking down on it going, no, but I'm a mighty swan and you're a minuscule hummingbird. But it's a very evocative image. You still got that sense of entrapment, and the thrashing about of the swan is not helping it in any way whatsoever. I don't know why my camera's doing that. It's probably because I'm doing this, isn't it? Yeah, probably. But yeah, so the swan's thrashing about and it's just making the situation worse, where all it needs to do is just stay calm for a little bit, and the situation will resolve itself with a little help from a little friend. Here is the Line Strider. The Line Strider has lots of amazing images. Now, when I first picked this card up months ago, I thought, is that a worm? It's not a worm. It's a loosely tied knot. Just to signify that they are the ropes, if you like, that are binding you are loose, and you can get out if you put a little bit of, well, you know, not even a great deal of effort, but it's not hard to get out of this situation. Beautiful card, as most of the Line Strider are. Here is the Fountain. The Book of the Fountain wants to draw attention to the concept of blind fear. Now, this is a really harsh image, isn't it? Again, you have a woman. I think the overriding character in these cards is usually a woman, but that's not significant in any way, I don't think. These 8 swords are being held to her throat. Now, the interesting thing about the Fountain is she is blindfolded, but the blindfold is transparent. She's got her eyes shut. She can just simply open her eyes, and then things may become a little bit clearer. It's a cracking card. You've got the dark tones as well. The Fountain uses colour in such a unique way, I think. I could gaze at these cards for ages. But yeah, so the meanings of the Fountain are much the same as everywhere else. You know, you still got that crisis, that imprisonment and isolation. Moving on to the Wild Unknown. Again, very similar vibe. This time you have a cocoon, a butterfly cocoon. So again, it's self-imprisonment, but as we know, butterflies do come out. I mean, I suppose this is the cocoon stage, caterpillar to butterfly. You're also getting a vibe that all these struggles and all these self-imposed imprisonment, if you like, you'll become stronger if and when you get out. The Wild Unknown is a beautiful, beautiful deck, and this card is no exception. I say that every time when I pull a Wild Unknown card, but yeah, significant. Also, I wonder if it's significant that the cocoon is, the chrysalid is actually hanging off a sword. I don't know. Moving into the darker decks, here we have the Quantum Tarot, and if I can just flash it so you can see the embossed swords there. The array of swords apes the top image. We'll get to that later. The subtitle of the Quantum is Quark Confinement and Color Charge. You see these quarks here. Now, when it says color charge, it doesn't actually mean colors as we perceive them. It's just a concept in quantum physics to suggest that it's a bit hard to explain because honestly, I don't really get it myself. But basically, quarks are held together by an incredibly strong force. This strong force not only binds the quarks together, but it helps atoms maintain their stability. If it wasn't for the strong force, then everything would just be flying apart, and I wouldn't be making this video, and you wouldn't be watching it. In fact, we'd just be sort of whisking around the cosmos. Again, you've got a face here. You can't see the eyes, so that's signifying being blindfolded. You get that sense of imprisonment again. Here we have the Dark Grimoire, and in the Dark Grimoire, the suit of swords is replaced with the concept of demons. So it's the suit of demons also, almost, despite the fact that it does clearly say focus swords in the bottom corner there. But when you read the little light book, it says the swords are demons, which does actually kind of vibe well with the sense of the suit of swords overall. I think the swords are all about internal demons, I think. But yes, there you have a woman imprisoned by a demon. Not a deck I'm particularly fond of, but this is the Royal Dark Tarot. Very evocative image, though. Now, the Royal also gives the idea of embarrassment. Now, the concept of embarrassment is interesting because, say, if you do something a little bit silly and you're embarrassed about it, it's a common known. I say it's a common known fact, but people are so involved in themselves that if they see somebody do something embarrassing, that they may laugh, they may have a giggle, but then they'll move on and they'll forget about it. So the concept of embarrassment again is self-imposed. Now, I like this image because this woman, not blindfolded, but clearly unhappy, and you have this strange steampunk contraption attacking her mind. She is imprisoned by a chain around her neck. The Royal Dark Tarot, there's a lot of bondage going on in there. But yeah, I do like this image, the Eight of Swords. Here is the Archeon. Now, the Archeon is usually one of the wild card decks. It kind of gives a very different bent on the ideas. However, this one is very much very similar to the rest. In the book, it says she's bound to her past by ropes of memory, and indeed, the concept of your memories, the past, can actually chain you down, and it can disturb you from moving forward. I almost used the word interference there. I just did. I was trying to hold back from using that word for the Hermetic decks, but yes, so bad memories of the past can interfere with your present and indeed affect your future. Excellent card. Another bondage vibe going on there, but again, it's very similar. Imprisoned. I'm just having a closer look here. She is blindfolded, but I don't think it's quite transparent as well, almost like the Line Strider. Awesome card. Here is the Deviant Moon. The Deviant Moon, aside from being utterly creepy, does also add something else. So this woman is actually asleep. So again, she can't see anything. She can't see clearly because she's dreaming. And the Deviant Moon up here is affecting her dreams. In the trance of sleep, she is beckoned by the Deviant Moon. However, the moon's influence on her dreams will be over by daybreak, because you can see that the sun's coming up here. So daybreak is near. So again, there is that concept of hope, of release. However, whether she's going to fall out that window onto those swords before then is anyone's guess. I'd like to think not. Here is Santa Muerte. And again, the Santa Muerte likes to be different. However, in this case, nope. It's vibing well with the rest of the Eight of Swords. Now, it's really difficult to... This is a big skull. In the Santa Muerte deck, the suit of swords is usually shown with big heads because of the mind. And they're pointing at this head here. I don't know if I can... it's easy for me to see because it's right in front of me, but I don't know if I was to move it around a little bit, get a bit interactive. Yeah, I think you can see it. So yeah, these swords are attacking the mind in a certain way. And as with all other cards in the Santa Muerte, it comes with advice from the dead, which again vibes very, very well with the rest of the Eight of Swords. It says, do not be afraid, even if it is necessary to reconsider your ideas. The commitments undertaken or the choices made, if they are causing a continual internal storm. Internal storm, I like that. And it's good advice. Very good advice. Moving on to the Hermetic decks. Hermetic. I included the Night Sun in this. Let's talk about the Night Sun first. Again, blindfolded by your own by your own volition, if you like. You are yourself blindfolding yourself. Very definite imprisonment of the swords there. Jupiter in Gemini, helpfully there, and of course the suit of air. I always like to linger on the night sun because, as you know, it's possibly my favourite deck. Yeah. Here's the Ritual Golden Dawn deck. Here is the Tot deck, and here is the Hermetic deck, and they're all very, very similar. Some things of note. So the Golden Dawn title of the Eight of Swords is the Lord of Shortened Force. Here we have Shortened Force. Interestingly, you have 4 hands here holding 2 swords each. I'm not sure if there's any significance of that, but they're all attacking the rose, and the image of the rose is very important to the Golden Dawn. It has religious connotations as well as connotations of purity and of faith and things like that, and it's being attacked there. The Tot deck is amazing, I think. For a start, you have, again, self-imprisonment. It's the swords that are imprisoning the swords, and you've got a whole bunch of different swords here, and they all have names. I didn't write them down because I can't pronounce most of them, but they're all swords from different cultures. That's a machete, I know that much. But what's really cool about the Tot deck is the colour scheme. The colour scheme here, all these purpley hues signify Jupiter, and there's the Jupiter glyph up there, and the orange hues signify Gemini. And it's just an interesting blend, and it looks really regal in a certain way. Interference, there's that word again. The Tot deck tells us things like that too much attention to detail. Yeah, you're worrying too much about one thing. You're spending all your mental energy thinking about one thing, and that's interfering with the actual operation of what you want to do. Here's the Hermetic deck, and it's very, very similar. You have the 8 swords attacking that rose thing. I probably should mention in the Kabbalah, the 8 of Swords is Hod in the scale of Yetzirah. Hod is weakened by the mercurial splendour of the astral realm, so that you're getting that magician element in there as well. So yeah, that's most of my decks. I do have a bonus deck here. This is an image, this is a taster image, if you like, of the Tarot of Fire. And here's the 8 of Swords, and this gives a slightly different bent. It's a fascinating deck. I intend to make a video soon, one day, in 7 years, I don't know. But here we have an image of the Pentecost, the Christian myth. It may or may not have happened, where the apostles, or some of the apostles, are in a congregation, and then they were touched by the Holy Spirit. They started speaking in tongues, etc., etc. It's a cool image, and the book tells us that it's the Pentecost. It's spiritual help is needed to overcome adversity and to strengthen the soul, which is great advice. It's something that's missing from a lot of a lot of the little books, and it's not obvious from some of the images, but maybe you need to seek spiritual guidance in which to overcome these self-inflicted fears. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, what do you do if the 8 of Swords comes up in a reading? There is always, I mean, tarot's there to highlight some of our failings or some of our strengths, and to give us advice of moving on. Now, some of the advice that I would probably come up if it came up for me or for somebody I was doing a reading for is, you've got to, I need to hold something. What do I hold? Do I hold a stone? I don't know. Do I hold the Lovers? Who cares? Let's hold this. What was I saying? In a reading, yeah. So some of the advice is you need to confront some of your self-imposed limitations. You need to free yourself from self-criticism, or, try and get around some of those limiting beliefs. And we all have limiting beliefs, whether we like it or not. We always can have more of an open mind. Also, it can tell us to make a conscious effort to clear some of these obstacles, to overcome pettiness in a sense. And this is pettiness towards yourself. To be less narrow-minded about yourself, and ultimately, I think it's to take responsibility for your own life. You have these fears, you have this imprisonment that you've put upon yourself, and there's nothing wrong with A, just facing up to them, and B, asking for help. So yeah, that's the 8 of Swords. I Doubt that's illuminated you in any way whatsoever, but at least you got to see a lot of pretty pictures. Of course, it doesn't get any better in the Suit of Swords. We've got the 9 and the 10 to go, but that's obviously, you know, after a cup of tea and a few weeks rest or whatever. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Hidden Hermit. Cheers.